Hello and welcome to another episode of Chuchu is a Ranker. On this episode we're going to be continuing our Albums of the Year list. This time it's 2018, and 2018 is, well, a bit of an uninspired year is what it is. There doesn't seem to be much innovation or forward momentum in this year, but as usual I still have 10 really good records for you. So without further ado, let's be complete rankers and rank up a storm. These are my personal top 10 albums of 2018. So we're going to be kicking off this list with Future Me Hates Me, which was the debut album by New Zealand guitar pop band The Beths, and on this you have a lot of summery bubblegum pop which sounds like it could have come from the late 90s or early 2000s. And it sounds kind of like what you'd end up with if you mashed together Metric and Early Feeder and then added a dash of the Vines, and as such originality is pretty thin on the ground, but the soundscape is bright, consistent and vaguely nostalgic. And when the sun is up in the sky, tracks like the bouncing title track Future Me Hates Me, the incredibly catchy Uptown Girl, which is not a Billy Joel cover by the way, or the soaring choruses of Happy Unhappy can really hit the spot and make that ice cold beer taste just a little bit sweeter. Next up we have The Blue Hour by Suede, which was the band's 8th album and 3rd since their reformation. And here the band are really reaching for the stars. They're obviously trying really hard to craft some kind of flowing, baroque, string-laden masterpiece. And this is definitely an album where the whole takes precedence over the individual pieces, as great care has been taken to preserve the atmosphere and provide connective musical interludes. And the tone of the LP is dark and deeply emotional, almost to the point of being overwrought, as the majority of the material on offer here falls into the weeping ballad category. That, combined with the aforementioned strings, gives this a really elegant chamber pop feel, yet is weirdly offset by Suede's trademark gutter romance, as you have interludes about dead birds, a closing track titled Fly Tipping, and artwork literally depicting a garbage heap. But when you have tracks like the Nighttime Glide of Opener as one, huge towering ballads such as Life is Golden and Don't Be Afraid If No One Loves You, or kick-ass David Bowie tributes like The Invisibles, who cares that the band seem to be getting overly dramatic about their local tip? I mean, somebody's got to look out for all those lovely dustmen. Coming in next, we have The More I Sleep, The Less I Dream by Scottish indie band We Were Promised Jetpacks, which was their 4th LP. And on this, the band are concentrating almost entirely on the shoegaze aspects of their sound, going all in on relaxing catharsis and building emotional gravitas. And this works really well, as the band have always had those elements lurking underneath their brutish guitars and post-punk leanings. But here, they blossom on the surface and create a consistently laid-back soundscape full of beautiful melodies, hidden details and slow-burn compositions. And there are plenty of highlights too. When I Know More has a nagging, insistent guitar riff underpinning everything. Someone Else's Problem and Make It Easier feature earwormy vocal lines and organically flowing structures. While Hanging In is amazing by using ebbs and swells really well, and by having a part of the song that sounds exactly like A Design for Life by the Manic Street Preachers, which you immediately forgive when they directly reference it as singer Adam Thompson cheekily sings "I wish I had the bottle" over the riff in question. But my favourite off of this though is the opening track Impossible, which is a building shoegaze masterpiece and also my favourite song in the band's entire catalogue. I really love that track. I mean, the build is epic and the emotion that comes rolling in off the vocals, mwah, chef's kiss, it is perfection. So make sure to check out that track even if you don't stay for the album. But yeah, I mean, this is just another great addition to the discography of We Were Promised Jetpacks. Next up we have Wanderer by American singer-songwriter Cat Power, which was her 10th LP, But despite having such a long and successful career, this is actually the first Cat Power record that I've ever heard. And here we have a typically stripped back singer-songwritery type of album, mostly played on lonely sounding pianos or acoustic guitars, which of course is very much a trend during this period in history. Other notable examples this year would be Still Clean by Stock and Mummy and Lush by Snail Mail, but Cat Power beats out the competition with this particular LP. The record is really relaxed and stately, with Cat Power's husky voice projecting age and experience with every syllable. Opening track Wanderer sets the tone with its vocal-only melodies. Woman impresses with its bluesy country vibes and also features Lana Del Rey. Black and Robin Hood are tuneful acoustic additions that add to the atmosphere, and the piano cover of Rihanna's Stay is a thing of ear-catching beauty. So yeah, I mean, these type of female-fronted singer-songwriter records might well be to a penny in 2018, but Cat Power has the feline wiles to stand out from the strays. Next up we have Joy as an Act of Resistance by British punk band Idols, which was their sophomore LP, and here we have a really consistent and catchy punk record with a memorable brace of lyrics that are notably open-minded. Colossus is a great building opener with some interesting lyrics about escaping away from an overbearing father. Never Fight a Man with a Perm has some hilariously memorable couplets buried in its catchy guitar fuzz, such as, "You're not a man, you're just a big neck with sausage hands." Great is surprisingly pop-orientated and boppingly catchy, as is Gram Rock with its daftly playful lyrics, including the baffling final line, "My boy fucked Tom Hiddleston's stylist." I mean, geez, you should probably keep that information low-key. I'll get my coat. But the best track off of this has to be the awesome Fiery Rage of Samaritans, which is both super catchy and genuinely affecting with its lyrics about the expectations of male masculinity. So yeah, punk revival was also a bit of a trend in 2018, with Shame also arriving with their notable debut, Songs of Praise. But Joy as an Act of Resistance is a vastly superior album in my opinion, and an easy placing on this list. So, we're going to be kicking off the top 5 with Marauder by Interpol, which was the band's 6th LP, and this sees the post-punk icons in full-on rock mode, bashing out a fast-paced, shimmering set of consistent bangers. And this record has cool swagger for days, featuring some of the most soaring instrumental sections of the band's career. Highlights on a stacked LP include the nagging guitar riff of The Rover, the jumbled rhythms of Mountain Child, the almost erotic prowl of Complications, and the thunderous, mosh-inducing Flight of Fancy. And if you fancy a bit more of a deep dive on my opinions on Interpol, I recently did a full ranking of the band, which I will link at the end of the video. But yeah, Marauder is certainly one of the band's better albums, and a record which I absolutely played to death back in 2018. Great stuff! Next up we have Post by Jeff Rosenstock, which was his follow-up to his masterwork Worry. And wouldn't you know, it's just another really excellent album full of killer melodies and strong songwriting. On this record, Jeff is trending in a more stately and mature direction, with more in the way of socially aware lyrics, most specifically with his 2 lengthy bookending tracks, USA and Let Them Win. USA despairs of and celebrates American youth and also the vapidity of modern culture, climaxing with the memorable refrain, "We're tired, we're bored, F you USA," while Let Them Win sticks up for the outsiders and rallies against the rich and big business, inciting riots with its boisterous clatter, but then soothing the wounds with a gorgeous Vangelis-style synth outro. But some of the whiplash punk energy of his earlier work is retained for the likes of the thumping Powerlessness, Melba, and the insanely catchy Beating My Head Against the Wall. However, the twin highlights come in the form of the album's 2 huge ballads, TV Stars and 9 Out of 10. Both have soaring melodies and great emotionally salient lyrics. I specifically love that amazing sing-along chorus of 9 Out of 10. 9 times out of 10, I'll be stoned on the subway, reading backlit directions of what I should do, dodging eye contact with anyone who looks my way. 9 times out of 10, I'll be thinking of you. Mwah! Chef's kiss. That is a chorus that will get stuck in your head until the end of time. So yeah, I mean, this is just further proof that Jeff Rosenstock is one of the most consistent artists of the 2010s and an essential addition to this list. Coming in third place and taking home the bronze medal, we have Time Will Die and Love Will Bury It, which was the 5th album by UK art metal band Rollo Tomassi. And here we have a really engaging mix of screamed vocals, blast beats and savage guitar riffs, paired with moments of beautiful serenity, burbling synths, cathartic emotions and, when she stops screaming, Eva Corman's gorgeous vocals. It's a unique mix and one that almost transcends the genre of metal and enters into shoegaze territory. I mean, rarely do you hear something so damn heavy that's so damn relaxing. I mean, if you take the first 2 tracks, the gently lapping instrumental opener Towards Dawn and the epic art pop single Aftermath, you'd have no idea that this was a metal band, until Rituals suddenly abuses your balls with its pummeling riffs and furious blast beats. And so it goes on this LP, lurching from soothing soundscapes such as Contretemps and the close of Risen to thunderous mosh starters like Balancing the Dark and the super catchy Alma Mater. And sometimes you get both within the same song, such as the Hollow Hour and the epic album highlight, A Flood of Light, which is just such a fucking badass track that just drips with scarred emotion. So yeah, for me, this probably has to be my favourite metal album from this particular decade. I think it's an excellent, unforgettable record and pretty essential listening. Silver medal time, and the silver medal is going to go to the Grammy Award winning LP Golden Hour by American country star Casey Musgraves. Although this album doesn't really have a whole heck of a lot to do with country in my opinion, but what it does have a lot to do with is absolutely incredible pop hooks and top-notch songwriting. I mean, this is just one of those albums where every single track sounds like it could be a smash hit single, but in the best possible way, because unlike most albums in that kind of vein, there doesn't seem to be any calculation here. This is just the sound of a songwriter at their absolute peak and just smashing home runs on every track. I mean, even the most overtly catchy pop tune, High Horse, is buried deep on the album at track 11 instead of being pushed up front like a lesser artist might have it. And there's just no downtime on this entire record. Slow Burn is a sweetly emotional opener, Butterflies is incredibly hooky and romantic, Space Cowboy is all kinds of brilliant with its insane catchiness and epic slide guitars, Rainbow is about as perfect as a piano closer can get, and Oh What a World is a gorgeous ballad with a dovetailing cathartic soundscape. But for all of its grandstanding, my favourite track off of this is the relatively low-key title track Golden Hour, which is the penultimate song on the album. It's just a stunningly beautiful acoustic number that just uplifts me every time I hear it. So yeah, I mean, this album is just absolutely wonderful, and if you haven't heard it, you need to rectify that as soon as possible. Amazing stuff. So here we are at the top of the mountain, and the gold medal for 2018 is going to go to Be the Cowboy by kooky indie star Mitski, which was her 5th album, and also the LP which saw her turn in a much more pop orientated direction, albeit while still retaining all of her odd, unique indie charm. And this record is consistent from start to finish, it's relentlessly charming, lyrically ear-catching, and stuffed with sparkling highlights. Geezer kicks things off in great fashion, still somewhat off-kilter but also showing off some more pop muscle. Why Didn't You Stop Me has some fun clicking bass and a cool guitar break. Old Friend has some gorgeous bit chip style keyboards, A Pearl explodes into layers of reverb at its epic conclusion, whilst Remember My Name and Washing Machine Heart neatly display the odd melodic sensibility that brought Mitski to the table in the first place. The best track off this album though is also Mitski's most famous song, Nobody, which is a really bright, super catchy disco tune with a chorus hook to die for, but closer inspection reveals disturbingly bleak lyrics about depression and loneliness. It's just a jaw-droppingly brilliant pop tune. And also a quick shout out for the following track, Pink in the Night, which is also just utterly hook-ridden. So yeah, I mean, it was a tough fight between Casey Musgraves and Mitski on this year's list. Both are just amazing records and there's basically nothing between them. But ultimately, Mitski's kooky, unique indie charm is going to trump full power major label pop this time around. And of course it goes without saying, check this album out if you haven't already, it's really, really fucking fantastic. And that's my 2018 list, but that won't be your list, so please sound off in the comment section and tell me all the classics that I've missed. Like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to check back for my 2019 list. Take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.